Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. Today is Monday, November 28th. Right now there's a subscribe logo that should be showing up on the screen. This is a thing that I did over the weekend, is to set up subscribe reminders, like reminders, click the notification reminders to play in the first 5 seconds or so of every video. This does inherently mean that in live streams and the recorded backups, I won't be getting as pure of a video, although in all fairness, particularly in these live streams, what does pure video even mean? Because we've got a whole bunch of other visuals that pop up when the web peak happens anyways. So yeah, I don't want to immediately become one of those YouTubers that goes into an advertisement for themselves within the first 2 minutes in every single video, asking people directly to like, share, and subscribe, even though I probably should. But I do want to get subscribers, so I feel like that's a reasonable middle ground to just silently have a visual reminder pop up and then go away. In the first 5 seconds of me talking, in almost every recording, even the pre-recorded footage, which I'm doing it also there as an experiment, I'm willing to hear arguments, but it would have to be kind of an amazing argument to convince me to immediately abandon doing the subscribe video setup. It's a little bit more complicated than it probably should have been for OBS to just have a video play in the first 5 seconds and then not, because triggering the video to play right when you hit the streaming button or right when you hit the recording button is not something that is just built into OBS itself. I have to use advanced scene switcher to do it. I also updated the YouTube shorts to put in the like, share, and subscribe. Same video, I'm just doing the same video over and over again. There's a survey here. It doesn't look like you get rewarded if you did the survey, though, so why do the survey? I think we have now some new quests, and I must have played a little bit off screen too. Let's just go ahead and claim all of these and see where we are at. Doesn't seem like there's any new quests for the Anti-Spell Festival. I didn't play any Yu-Gi-Oh! Off screen really over the weekend. I was mostly either sleeping or programming. But yeah, I got ambitious and did a little bit of programming, or frankly a lot of bit of programming, to try to get the YouTube Shorts to be a more automated process. Inherently, the UI Vision Firefox Chrome plugin that I use does have a way to export a comma separated value file to the downloads folder, whatever your default downloads folder is. So then I was able to find a Python script for OBS and then heavily modify it to do what I actually wanted it to do, versus what it by default did, which was to get multiple URLs and randomly pick a URL and put that in the browser source to show a web page on OBS. Instead, I wanted to get the last one at the bottom of the CSV file, because the last one will be the latest one. It was buggy, to say the least, and I couldn't really figure out a reason why it's so buggy. I can only assume what's happening here is that the file is getting created as an empty file sometimes first, and then it's getting created as a file with actual data in it second, and that was causing the Python code to work poorly. But yeah, eventually I got the Python code script in OBS to look for that file if it's downloaded, import the information that it wants, and then delete the file. So then it takes it some amount of time, and the timing was a big hassle as far as just getting everything right, to load in the page. And from that point of loading in the page, it triggers advanced scene switcher again to run a different macro to start the recording process of hopefully still exactly 60 seconds. It might be actually 59 seconds. It's not a big deal to go from 60 seconds to 59 seconds as long as YouTube still counts as a YouTube short. As long as it didn't go over 60 seconds, which I don't think it would. So it took a lot of tweaking, a lot of testing, and it was really a lot of what I would call rapid development going on, in which I was testing it, and then it would not quite work, but then it would make a YouTube short anyways, and I'd say, well, that one's good, let's just move on to the next one and make some changes and attempt again something different. But yeah, eventually through the process and through a lot of effort, I was able to get the Python script to work and advanced scene switcher to work, and now I have something that seems to work fairly well. I do still have a concern though that some of these scripting and programmings are causing lag, and maybe that lag is what has caused my keyboard and mouse to sometimes not be that responsive. Although I kind of just question if they haven't changed the code as to how Logitech keyboards and mice work, and there's just kind of a lag difference there. Although I did find under the Windows settings that straight up it seems like Windows at some point added a auto typing, autocorrect feature that is going out to the internet, like Microsoft SwiftKey type AI assisted typing, which was enabled by default, so I disabled that. So it is possible that the occasional lag or weirdness or wonkiness I felt on the mouse and keyboard have been Windows trying to call home on the servers and basically keylog everything that's being typed in. I also am open to the idea of potentially a virus being on my computer, although I don't know what I really would have done to cause that to happen. But yeah, it also very possibly was just my keyboard, and so I have gotten a new keyboard as far as these Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal, and yeah, just feeling a new keyboard and how much springier the buttons are for the exact same model, make and model, is quite shocking. So yeah, it could have been the receiver, it could have been the keyboard, it could be still the mouse. It sucks to once again have computer problems, but in this case it's not completely devastating computer problems. It's not RAM breaking, it's not computers shutting down randomly or resetting. It's just sometimes the mouse doesn't want to move as smoothly, or the keyboard doesn't want to type as fast as I feel like it should. I kind of do feel like there's probably a battery saving feature that may have been changed. It might also be the Logitech option or the setpoint. Unify software is just getting worse and worse programming. But for maybe a day or so now. I haven't had any problems, so maybe I finally fixed it. It might also have a weirdness to the fact of some USB devices briefly cut off power when a new device is detected, so maybe there's some weirdness happening there even. That's a new thing I just saw on Linus Tech Tips, is that some of these gallium nitrate power distribution blocks briefly drop the power. So yeah, mostly I did programming, did some uploading, didn't do any scheduling, need to do some scheduling, and then I started to play The Vagrant because The Vagrant is coming out December 1st, which is to say that my footage probably won't come out anytime close to December 1st, but Shadow of the Vagrant is coming out for consoles around December 1st, except for the PS5, which is coming out in 2023. Shadow of the Vagrant is an interesting game in that it claims to be a Metroidvania, but it looks very different. In fact, it looks much closer to some of the flatter Japanese RPG games. It has a very soft, smudged appearance to it. The main protagonist is in total bikini armor, just like almost completely scantily clad, and nearly every single female character in the game has gigantic breasts, but it doesn't play anything towards anything so far. It's like, yes, you see some cleavage, and you're always looking at the belly and the cleavage and the thighs and legs of this character, but it just becomes passé and bland. It's like going to a beach where it stops becoming special, or even going to a nudist beach. After a couple hours of being on a nudist beach, from what I've heard, people just get used to it and stop even really caring that they're seeing nudity. And for that aspect, I really kind of wonder if the Vagrant is going to be in the mushy middle of being lewd for no real reason. And I suspect there's a good chance that the console versions do just put the main protagonist character in a more covered up outfit with some censorship, and it would be kind of hard to even really complain about censorship so far as being 3 hours in, because that's just not what the game really is about. The game is a hack and slash Metroidvania game, but a lot of the rooms are very much just open areas, and very often they are flat areas where there's an exit on the left and an entrance on the right, or vice versa, and you just walk from the left to the right. Enemies will spawn in the middle, you will fight the enemies, and then you'll move on. Enemies and pots drop a lot of mana crystals and a lot of gold, so you just get a ton of it fairly quickly, and you don't really have enough to spend it on. There is basically no jumping or platforming in the game for the first act of maybe 4 or 5 acts. I'm not sure. It could be just 3 acts. And then the first area is considerably smaller. The first area after the tutorial area, which is really just one screen. The first area after that is still considerably smaller than the second area is. So that does leave me with this weird feeling that... Sorry, I'm yawning. I tried to find my 5-hour energy drinks and I don't know what I did with them. I thought I had them in my drawers, but I couldn't find them in the drawers. They probably are there, and I'm just going to have to move the drawers around a lot more. But it's a lot of hack and slashing. It's a lot of Skyrim style skill unlocking, in that you have these abilities and there's a constellation, and you use all that mana you're finding to unlock the more abilities, and eventually you do unlock an ability to double jump. And in one room in particular, there was just really no way I could have gotten through that room without having the double jump, and instead of the game giving you the double jump like it was a movement ability, like you would see in something like Metroid Prime or Metroid, that you just have to unlock it, which means you potentially are going to have to go through rooms and grind. There's way too much opportunity in the game to grind, because you just exit a room and enter it, and then the same enemies will respawn a second time, except for boss characters. So, yeah. The hacking and slashing is the main component. There are non-voice dialogue sections every now and then. I'm really gonna have to find that 5-hour energy drink. The non-voiced dialogue sections are not particularly good, because it's just too much dialogue and the text is incredibly small. Plus, I'm fairly certain Vagrant Story is a Japanese game, and so the word wrap in English is just completely off and broken in many instances. His story is not particularly unique so far or interesting, and there's just too much dialogue for it. Had it been voiced, had somebody been talking to you as you were walking, and you had more of a walk and talk type scenario, then might be something around that idea that would have worked better. But yeah, generally there's not a lot to complain about, even though I am complaining about it quite a bit. It is a fairly decent game so far. Let's just end this turn. Alright, I'm gonna mute myself and try and find this 5-hour energy drink before I do anything else, so this will take a minute. Yeah, I put it at the back of the drawer to discourage myself from actually drinking this poison tonic that is 5-hour energy drink. It's just something that will eventually lead to a heart attack. I'm somewhat concerned, jokingly concerned about. As far as the whole Black Friday sales and such, the thing here is I suspect that there was actually less lightning deals for this Black Friday sale than the pre-early access Black Friday sale and the Prime Day that happened before months ago. Because I really just didn't see a lot. I wasn't really looking for a lot, but it definitely felt like it was way easier this time to not even bother to look. There were also unique things in this Prime Day sale that I think are much more in the right direction for doing Black Friday Prime Day sale on Amazon. They had a spinning wheel gamble mechanic where you could get $5 off, $20 off, and even if you lost each time, which I did, so I think most people lost, you were entered in a contest to get $500 of store credit effectively, and that's something that could be really helpful if Amazon embraced that idea a lot more, to actually give some kind of store credit and actually help people pay for things instead of just having a lot of opportunity for third-party sellers to mark up the price, or Amazon themselves to mark up the price and then pretend like it's 25% off when they marked it up 30% before that point. Generally, I think Amazon even got the message that people were not looking for random cheap things that they never thought about buying before, was trying to be more in line with selling things people actually would want. A little bit more at least. And in part of that, they had a deal where if you spent $50 on Amazon basic brand stuff, which is like paper towels and toilet paper and things like that, products that I'm sure are being sold via that grocery store that Amazon bought out, you would get 25% off or 20% off, which is a pretty great deal for those types of products and a terrible deal for any other kind of product. They also had a buy 3 books for the price of 2 sale with limited items actually being under the list of the kinds of books you could buy. It wasn't just books, it was also movies and DVDs, and not really a good system to sort through any of it to see what was applicable. The best thing you could possibly have done there is just put things in the cart that you actually wanted to buy and then go back to the page with the buy 3 for 2 sale and see if you have enough things to qualify. And then you'd also have to kind of mix and match. If you had 6 things, you needed to break it into 2 orders, with 3 of them being your most expensive 3 things and then the next 3 being your least expensive 3 things, because you don't want to end up getting the price of one book removed. If you bought, say, 2 $20 books and a $10 book, you don't want to get the $10 book for free when you could be buying 3 $20 books, or DVDs or whatever. But any of the few DVDs, Blu-rays I'd like to get didn't qualify, and a lot of the books I wanted to get didn't qualify. But I was able to find a couple of things, and that was probably the most extra things I bought, where I still am very much in the mindset of buying boring things that I just need. And see, I have, I guess, until the end of today to decide if I need to buy a new mouse, now that I've bought a new keyboard separately. I don't know if buying the keyboard and mouse separately was any real savings, but it may have been. But really not getting a lot of extra garbage. There are some video games like Sonic Frontiers is on sale right now and some other Switch games. But not really a ton of that. No PlayStation or Xbox games that I saw that were particularly on sale. And like computers and equipment or third-party controllers and things like that are just not worth really mentioning. So now I am just down to the point of deciding whether I want to buy anything for the Steam sale right now, or whether I want to just leave it and not buy anything for the Steam sale at all. I also ordered groceries at the to be delivered, and that was particularly expensive. So I'm hoping that was just a fluke, and not that grocery prices in general have just skyrocketed even more than I've noticed before. But it does kind of seem like everything is going up. My nieces and nephews decided to send me a wish list after Black Friday of things they would like for their Christmas and birthday, but I'm not sure if they're actually going to get any of that, because I had already bought a bunch of stuff for them on the Prime Day sale that happened months ago, and frankly, if I'm gonna have to tell them, if they are going to give us a list, it definitely needs to be at least a week before Black Friday. Yeah, they're getting old enough now that they are going to start making lists. Although I'm not sure I really trust the lists that I got, because I didn't really see any video games on it. And I think the kids would be at least somewhat interested in video games. But who knows, their parents may have already opted to buy them video games, or said they had enough video games, or what. Generally, this is the last year I'll be buying them anything that's not on some kind of list, and I'm probably going to get rid of my GameStop subscription when it expires next year, because I'm not really shopping there for much. Lego does have did get me some discounted coupons, so I have about $20 off of my next purchase of Legos. So might want to buy something there too. Inherently, all this is boiling down to is that no matter how hard you try, once Black Friday comes around, every single company conspires to put their hand in your pocket as much as possible and make you as broke as possible. But I do think Black Friday and Cyber Monday is certainly dying down as a concept. There was also, from what I heard, a big strike on Amazon from Amazon.com workers. So I don't know if the unions or the representatives, since there probably isn't even any actual unions formed at Amazon, I don't know if they were asking civilians to not cross the picket line, the digital picket line there, and not order from Amazon.com while they're on strike. But solidarity generally would imply that you wouldn't cross the picket line, even though you're not actually seeing a picket line and not actually physically crossing a picket line. You're still supporting the store that the members are striking for. I didn't pay enough attention to it. Certainly. But yeah, most people, if you saw a picket line with people with signs crossing, you would either be too afraid to cross the line, or you would morally feel like a scab or a scumbag to cross that picket line. I don't know if you technically are a scab if you're just crossing a picket line to go into the store, but the general idea is you never cross that line if you support better improvement of working conditions at all. There aren't any real competitors to Amazon still, I would say, to buy other places that are anywhere even compatible. You can get some things at Walmart, you can get some things at Newegg, but it really does start to become this much bigger conundrum if you want to have a one-stop shopping place. And there's still a lot of protection that Amazon offers that random websites don't offer as far as shopping somewhere and returns and all of that. I think we can probably pull this off. Let's attack with this one first and see if this trap activates. Let's see, do we have anything else I want to talk about or catch up on, I guess? Instead of just sitting here chewing on ice. I watched the Wednesday Addams series on Netflix. I liked it. I'm not really sure I got the general theme of it though, which is, it's a little weird to be confused. Surprisingly, Tim Burton is somewhat involved in the project, even though I didn't really see a lot of advertisement pushing that idea. But it kind of makes some sense that you would want Tim Burton's name on the project, even if he really just pitched the idea and was some kind of executive or producer to it. Basically, the Wednesday series is Harry Potter meets Nancy Drew, where I'm not 100% sure if Wednesday Addams really had any kind of Nancy Drew type element to it, where in any of the previous Addams Family depictions, part of the problem here is that they caught some of the previous Addams Family movies, and so Addams Family Values, I don't know if there's another Addams Family direct to that was like a direct to DVD movie, but probably. So you can watch those and maybe get a general idea what a previous generation would have thought Addams Family was about, but that would still be kind of wrong compared to the original Addams Family. And it definitely feels like all of this should have aired a month earlier, so it seems like they were late to, like, it would have made a lot more sense if the Wednesday series came out somewhere October 1st, not at the end of November. But yeah, she gets sent to this magical school with a bunch of other magical creatures, which allows them to introduce a bunch of magical creatures that you wouldn't have probably have seen in your average Addams Family episode. And it introduces a mystery, and it introduces teenage romance, which I doubt that was in the original Addams Family series. And seems like with every accusation that Wednesday is making, the right accusation as far as how things are being shown to the viewer, for it to only then reveal that Wednesday was totally wrong, and she's causes this disastrous result of somebody being of accusing somebody, mostly in the sense that she's causing a lot of people to end up getting attacked and killed, which I don't think quite works as well, in the sense that the other people around Wednesday Addams are characters that they were working really hard for people to learn to like, and for them to be attacked and potentially killed eliminates them from the story in kind of a disappointing fashion. Yeah. In a funny way, Wednesday Addams, if you named Wednesday something completely different and got rid of the Addams Family element, it would be the exact same story. But yeah, that's where I really don't get the message from it, is that it almost feels like the message is don't jump to conclusions or don't make accusations, because it could turn out terribly. She doesn't really do much throughout the entire series to save the day. And yeah, she just kind of doesn't. She feels like the odd man out in the rest of the story and the rest of the cast of characters. Pugsley, the brother, is barely in the show. Morticia and Gomez, the parents, are barely in the show. In fact, I thought all three of them very possibly were not going to even show up after the first few minutes of the first episode, because they really just basically sent her to boarding school, and then it is all about Wednesday. Uncle Fester shows up, being played by a comedian who loves to play weird characters, and he does a decent job under all that makeup, but I question if Uncle Fester really needed to be there in the story at all. And then Thing, the detached hand, is throughout the series with Wednesday acting as the assistant slash slave to her, and getting a lot of screen time too, to do a bunch of gags of how would a hand assist in like a robbery, or how would a hand assist in a fight, or how would a hand signal or communicate to other people. And so that gag gets probably played to death. It doesn't, I think, play as well as a series of unfortunate events does. I think there's a kind of better mystery and just perhaps better acting that happens in the Netflix series of a misfortune events series, and less probably tying me down to those characters, since I haven't read those books and have no familiarity with the characters. Also, I think there's just more room for comedy in a series of unfortunate events, where it just doesn't really feel like there is any comedy, or there is as much room for comedy in Wednesday. But I'd like to see it get a second season. Yeah, I'd like to see it go 4 or 5 seasons and just be the new Harry Potter, or at least the foundation of an idea of a new Harry Potter. And at a certain point, maybe you get rid of the Addams completely, and you just have a spin-off of other characters in the show, because I think that would work fairly nicely. She has this roommate that's all bright and colorful, that's a werewolf. She would be a particularly interesting character to spin off and have their own series. Plenty of other characters popping up would make sense. I definitely could see an argument that the Addams Family name is more of a burden than it's a help. Arguably, Netflix is doing a weird thing though, where they seem to always have like 2 or 3 of very similar ideas and concepts in a row. So, the School for Good and Evil feels very similar to the Wednesday Addams show, and that recently came out also. And Sabrina was a CW show, but I could see them potentially trying to do a new Sabrina that in a similar way as Wednesday Addams. The show's just called Wednesday, but I keep saying Addams. But yeah, I could see them trying to do a third reboot of Sabrina. I think Sabrina's been canceled by the CW. Pretty much everything has been canceled by the CW at this point. So if they could get the rights to that, I could see them doing a similar thing. Or they could straight up do a Nancy Drew thing, and that might work better. The magic and mysticism in the Harry Potter idea may appeal to some, but not others. So if you're going to have Harry Potter, you probably need it to be more of an adventure, and there wasn't quite enough of an adventure there. Although in all fairness, the first Harry Potter was the Philosopher's Stone, and that was very much a mystery. So if they were to do a second season of Wednesday, it might just become more of an adventure and more of an adventure. And it might end very much like the final Harry Potter movies, in which it was very much an adventure and very little of anything else. Did I watch anything else on Netflix before I stop rambling here? I started to watch Human Resources, which is a spin-off of Big Mouth, and I didn't like Big Mouth, really, for the 5 or 6 episodes I've sat through. But I actually did like Human Resources, which maybe is more of a relatable idea there, in that the characters you're dealing with in Human Resources are adult-like creatures, as it were, whereas the characters that you're mostly watching in Big Mouth are teenage-like characters. Also, I think it's probably a case that Human Resources has 5 or 6 seasons of Big Mouth, in which they probably refined the concept and improved. So if I was to watch the most recent season of Big Mouth compared to the first season of Human Resources, they may very well be very close to each other. Let's see, did I watch any other TV? Probably. Don't remember it though. That's still a major problem, that I'm wasting time. I wanted to get to Zelda, but I've said that probably 6 or 7 times now, that I've wanted to play Zelda, and it just doesn't happen. Inherently, the way my Nintendo Switch is set up, it's just not as easy as picking up a controller and playing it. I potentially should just put the Nintendo Switch in the bathroom next to a toilet, and then I could start playing it sitting on the toilet, and that would be where you'd be most bored and most likely to start picking it up and playing it. But that'd be also kind of gross. But yeah. And then it's ridiculous because part of this Black Friday I've bought Kirby and Metroid Dread, and I'm hoping with those two new games I can balance it out and sometimes play Zelda and sometimes play Kirby, or sometimes play Zelda and sometimes play Metroid Dread, and then I can eventually finish Breath of the Wild by balancing it out. It is a very short list, however, of Nintendo Switch games otherwise that I even want to play. I want to play like Luigi's Mansion and maybe Skyward Sword. I suppose there's definitely games I wouldn't be okay with playing, like Switch Sports, but they're not high priority, and I wouldn't really regret missing them. As far as Switch games go. And so if I'm really going to get some use out of this Switch, I'm probably going to have to just hold on to it longer and longer than I would have originally thought I would need to hold on to it to get older, more used games at cheaper prices. Alright, well that's enough rambling. Let's start covering the news. One of the things about my subscribe button, by the way, is if you click a specific button as a media source in OBS, the subscribe video would have restarted every time the web peak went back off and you went to the main screen here. So I didn't really want that. There is an argument that maybe I would like to have the subscribe button pop up every few minutes. No, not few minutes. Every 30 minutes, every 20 minutes. And certainly I could do that, but yeah, let's not go overboard. Certainly. I don't want to irritate people, although by not irritating people, I'm also not getting subscribers, so I'm just not a good enough salesman or pusher of myself. Yeah. So I wanted to point out that there is a rewritten Unity-based version of Papers, Please in the Steam beta testing preview branch. So that might give you an excuse to play Papers, Please if I haven't played it. I personally haven't played it, so that might give me a slight excuse to play it now before there's a totally different version, but I imagine it actually, on the face of it, will look the same and probably play very similar. Ironically, I wouldn't be surprised if Lucas Pope is somewhat regretting building it in Unity, considering all the problems that Unity has had recently. But for Lucas Pope in general, this definitely is a step in the right direction for his own journey as a programmer, if I can speak not from ignorance, basically, because I think his previous games have been kind of handwritten and hand-coded in their own engine, and moving him towards using Unity probably moves him closer to potentially using Unreal or some other engine, all of which would lead to him potentially making better programs, better games, or at the very least being quicker or it being easier for him to make programs and games. I also wanted to talk about Marvel Snap. They've got a big the Thanksgiving billboard up somewhere, although they don't really say where. I'm still playing Marvel Snap, and it hit kind of a new low in that there is an Agatha Harkness card that literally just plays for you, and it honestly played particularly well for you, in the sense that it was winning and playing exactly in the same way that I would have played right up until it did a really stupid move, and after that really stupid move, it lost my confidence. But the danger in that, I think, highlights that unlike a game like chess, Marvel Snap is already a solved problem. You just have to generally know what the randomness of a location, random chance of a location being one thing versus another, and that seems to change almost on a weekly basis. But once you can get a general feel of what locations they're promoting and making more of those locations showing up, the moves are always exactly the same over and over again, which makes grinding for the daily quests very boring, and playing the game in general very boring. And yet I'm making just more and more progress towards having every single card, if not every single card, at its maximum unlocked state. I'm honestly like incredibly far ahead, and you get gold for doing some of these daily quests, or not gold, but well, if you do the daily quest enough, you eventually get gold. Let me leave it at that. And it's kind of more obvious now that getting gold and saving that up to get variants of cards and unlocking those is really what you should spend gold on, versus just getting more of the upgrade credits, because you get a ton of upgrade credits. And honestly, it does feel like at a certain point you get so many level up upgrade credits that then let you level up your collection score to give you more gold and more upgrade credits, that it becomes a system in which you're really not spending that much to upgrade something more, to unlock the next tier of your collection level, or whatever it's called. And yeah, it just doesn't feel like there's any new reason. It feels like there's less reason to play Marvel Snap today than yesterday, or this week versus last week. And yet I'm still playing it. I am hearing less people talk about it, so there might be some dying out there. Although, on that same aspect, it's probably worth mentioning that I'm not hearing anybody mention Project Nike, Goddess of Victory, either. So I think that game has probably got its audience, and that's it. Although I'm also not listening to Giant Bomb, so there's a very high possibility that Giant Bomb is still talking about Marvel Snap. They're definitely not talking about Project Nike. Alright, let's start going through the news. Still running into a lot of news things about Black Friday. which Black Friday is already over, although in all fairness, a lot of these Black Friday deals probably are still running for Cyber Monday. Cyber Monday as a concept that doesn't even really make any sense now. It would have made a lot more sense in the old days when people didn't have internet at home or cell phones that they could shop on. But now everything is so home friendly as far as the internet and internet shopping that you don't have a reason to really go inside an office if you actually are going into an office to do shopping on the company's computer on that Monday. And inherently, if you are just shopping on the boss's computer on Monday, you're probably doing that every day, like just because you're bored. So I don't think you'd be an outlier that would cause Cyber Monday to get more sales. And I'm surprised that they also have like Small Business Saturday, that I bet that doesn't really do too much in sales either, and they don't have anything on Sunday. I guess you could call that Save Some Sunday, or just, I don't know what else they'd encourage you to spend on Sundays. They probably just are trying to stay away from encouraging anybody to do any shopping on Sundays, because that's the day in which churches want to get paid. Yeah, but I definitely think they should drop the Cyber Monday concept. But they can't. As soon as you establish a sale, you've kind of got to have that sale. You could certainly say that Black Friday sales are going to last between Friday and Monday, and just call them all Black Friday sales, and get rid of the phrase Cyber Monday, which would be good. But I don't think you could do anything else. A lot of sales are not finishing until the 29th anyways. In a lot of ways, they all should probably become autumn sales and happen before the beginning, the Black Friday. Honestly, different things should be on sale at different times. Moving on with news, apparently Street Fighter 6 has been rated, suggesting a release date news could be coming soon, according to Video Games Chronicles. Need for Speed Unbound gameplay streamed a week before release. There is a slight concern with the way this looks, that this Need for Speed game may not be particularly what people want. As far as the visuals, and I'd say visuals are a big factor in any racing game, but it might also be going in a very different direction. Like the old guard, as far as people who would like racing games, may not be around anymore, so targeting what looks like more of a Asian Tokyo Drift type fandom might be the right way to go, or just a different audience in general. Yeah, these characters and face models definitely don't look hyper realistic, but maybe the cars look pretty good. There was a story that GameStop's website was reportedly showing customer data, including addresses. That being said, they came back and said that this was test data. This was test data created by our teams, not actual data, is what their claim is, and that it was immediately fixed the same day it took place. I don't think this is the first time, though, that GameStop has done something like that, where they've accidentally leaked data, and certainly wouldn't be the first time some website has leaked data by putting the wrong information in the wrong field, which I feel like there's gotta be a better procedure out there to address that not happening. Like, there should be a encryption at the very least, if not access permissions, to databases where specific logins should only be able to access their own information as far as names, addresses, things like that. And the website itself shouldn't be able to, by its own, access a database and pull out any other data versus what it was. It should just say access denied. And when's the last time anybody's gone to a website and seen access denied filled in a form instead of but yeah, that really should be it. Maybe there's something about databases, SQL databases as they are, that the users and permissions concept doesn't really work. But even if you can't have users and permissions, you could definitely have an encryption of some sort in which the user's login and password unencrypts all the other data. So if you tried to pull the wrong data, it would come out garbled at least. But yeah, none of these websites are programmed well, so it's not a big surprise that these kinds of things can happen. Companies like GameStop, which are being run by money-hungry investors more than anything, investment groups, are not spending a dime on improvement or development on the back end of software. They are spending all of their money trying to simply get more income and more reoccurring revenue if they can get it, but just sales in general, yeah. It's one of those funny situations where you probably would be better off, instead of buying GameStop if you were an investor, you'd probably be better off just making a new GameStop from the ground up. And starting over from scratch. Because there's, particularly on the software side and the website side, there's not a lot there. GameStop's website is garbage. The storefront, the shipping, the procurement, all of that is stuff that GameStop has developed over time. But GameStop really wouldn't be that hard on procurement. You contact Nintendo, Microsoft, and PlayStation and say, we want all of your games on day one. We're going to become a video game store. It's not that hard as far as what you're selling, since you're really only having to deal with three consoles. It's a little bit more difficult than that. You also have to contact all the other companies that are selling games for those consoles, in the sense that you'd have to contact Ubisoft for Ubisoft games and EA for EA games, but that's not that big of a client list, really. How come this is activatable but this one isn't? Whereas if you're going to try and make a Walmart competitor, you would have to have, or an Amazon.com competitor, you'd have to do a lot more. And almost certainly, if you were going to make a new GameStop, being a middleman might make a lot more sense to start with than being a storefront. If you were to eBay of video games, that might appeal to a lot of people. I'm rambling again. Let's move on. Gran Turismo 7's boss says he's considered and looking into a PC port, but Yamamuchi claims bringing the title's tech to PC won't be easy, which, I don't know why Gran Turismo would be difficult to port, other than just they're not used to making PC games. Certainly says something when you have a Japanese developer even responding to the idea of PC ports, which really highlights how PC gaming is becoming much more of a thing in Japan. At least PC ports for the West is becoming much more of a thing, but also PC gaming in general in Japan seems like it's becoming much more of a thing. Well, I don't think I'm gonna survive this one. But yeah, I think we are definitely on the verge of it becoming a rarity for a Japanese game to not have PC ports. It'll probably take another 5 to 10 years before we start to see every old Japanese game getting a remake or a PC port. Things like Haunting Grounds and Japanese games that just never came to the West in general, or things that didn't sell, Dino Crisis, things like that, are just not likely to very quickly get PC ports as it goes, and we still won't see Nintendo PC ports, although we might see Pokemon PC ports at some point. Like, the ideal situation that probably wouldn't happen is after this debacle of how buggy Sword and Shield has been, is for them to somehow lose control of actually developing the games themselves, hand it over to whoever made Arceus, or whatever third-party developers have made some Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and then we start to see more and more Pokemon games coming out good and from programmers who know how to actually program, and at that point you probably might see a push towards PC ports. And Pokemon is kind of in a unique situation where Game Freaks might push for PC versions of Pokemon, where Nintendo wouldn't otherwise really want PC versions of what are effectively first-party titles. Although, I guess technically you might argue that Pokemon is a second-party title. Let's see, moving on. Video Games Chronicle says Takaya Imamura, the artist behind F-Zero and Star Fox, is creating a new game. A Switch text adventure Omega 6 will be based on Imamura's debut manga, which text adventure sounds like a visual novel being animated by an animator. But yeah. Does this look like F-Zero or Firefox or Star Fox? Not Firefox at all. Looking at these screenshots, I would say not really. So, from that perspective, it doesn't really feel like there's a lot to be hyped about when you look at these screenshots. And at a certain point, we're just kind of grasping at straws, or Nintendo fans are grasping at straws, hoping for a new F-Zero game, which is probably never happening, or a new Firefox game, which eventually I think will happen. See what this does. He's just spending all of his trap collateral to try and stop me from having any cards on the field. Let's end the turn there. Video Games Chronicle says a new Sonic Frontier update fixes disappearing boxes and bosses and other bugs, which also adds performance improvements. Which I imagine that's probably nice, although some of the complaints that I saw Video Game Donkey make, which that's about the only person I saw actually review or talk about this game, I'm still very much in a situation where I don't have any good sources of people I want to listen to as far as reviewing video games. And I really haven't done anything to fix that problem yet. But yeah, one of the complaints that it seemed like was that just the general concept and the general way that Sonic Frontier plays is lackluster. Which would explain why Black Friday Sonic Frontier games was on sale. But heck, if your kids want it, your kids want it. So, like, one of the good things about kids and video games is they're probably not experienced enough to have that skepticism or that have the bad game experience that somebody like me who's been playing video games for decades has, where I'm a little jaded and a little burnt out on playing mediocre games or bad games. And so, yeah. That's not to say that the standards should be lowered for kids' games. It should be arguably higher, but you can get away with it, certainly. And certainly, if they're up to version 1.10, this is just a great argument to not buy a game on day one. Apparently Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's online RNG move accuracy is rigged, players claim. The game's random calculations are the same every time, it's claimed. Yeah, there is something I'm confused about around Pokemon's online aspect in general. Like, I just don't understand how it really works at all. And people I saw online actually talking about the game seemed directly said they don't understand how it works either. But seemingly, as far as I can tell, if you're playing Scarlet and your friend is playing Violet, two of those players jump into some instance that is some kind of shared reality, but they're not sure if the Scarlet exclusives and the Violet exclusives are showing up differently for different players, and it seems like you can just run around and do separate actions, but questionably it doesn't seem like there's anything you can do that much together when you're playing online. So I don't know why you would specifically play online. Other than just to play with your friends. But then I bet it doesn't have any chat, being a Nintendo game, so yeah. At a certain level, Nintendo probably would do very well if they created their own special, like, streaming Twitch-like service where friends who, through the Nintendo friend code, could watch each other playing a game and chat in between their friends, and do kind of heavy moderation even amongst us very small groups of friends, with no public options at all, so parents would feel comfortable there. That's still a hard sell, certainly, but it might be easier to allow all games on the Switch to be streamed, have the video streaming out to friends, than it is to try to have online connectability or crossplay, not crossplay, but just online co-op play in games that are not really designed for online co-op play, like Pokemon. Like, I don't think there's co-op battles in Pokemon. If there were co-op battles, that'd be something different. But I just don't think that actually exists. Maybe you can battle each other, which is something Pokemon games always could do. You would think, with the emphasis on the motorcycles, that there would be some single player races. I've heard no talk of there being any kind of races or obstacle courses with the motorcycle element. And then you'd think with multiplayer, there would be multiplayer races. You'd think with the motorcycle that there would be a skin that would have come out for Mario Kart, which they're still heavily pushing Mario Kart 8, in which you could bring over your Pokemon character into Mario Kart 8. Yet weirdly, that's not the case. Every time I summon two things here, and then it just kind of feels like there's always a counter to this loner deck, which is probably the case. Like, we need to get 5 more victories, and in the last 2 or 3 streams, I've struggled to get even 1 victory. I'm also noticing that my YouTube Shorts seems to be getting drastically more views when I said check out, when I changed the title to check out this PC game versus daily PC game. So just having a more natural language element to it seems to have caused it to get a lot more views, or just having action, just straight up telling people to to check it out. Which, if that's really the case, and it definitely feels like that's the case, where same day you'll get maybe 9 views on the shorts that say daily PC game, exact same day check out this new PC game getting 200 views. So maybe I should label all my videos as checking out or check out this, and maybe that should just be the next evolution of titles on my channel. Really don't want to go down that route, but apparently the algorithm is used to more clickbait titles, if you call that more clickbait. I don't know if you really would call that more clickbait, or just like more sentence-based titles instead of single key phrase titles. And at a certain level, I guess that makes sense, that it's probably been programmed to avoid things that look like it's just keywords or short things. So if I have like Magic the Gathering episode 1 or number 1, that may just not be descriptive enough for the YouTube algorithm. I have to go where the views are. So that's definitely something I would consider pushing forward as an idea. And arguably, I should go back and just rename all of the other daily PC game shorts to check out this Steam game. Okay. Is that gonna get me anywhere with this? I mean, I guess I can do that, but I don't think that means I win. Moving on, Sonic Frontiers and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe were UK's big Black Friday biggest winners. Physical sales of both games rose more than 200%. I suppose Mario Kart 8 is another game that I would be amenable to playing, but I'm not particularly that interested in it since it is just Mario Kart. I've played it before, and it'll be a better version of Mario Kart, sure, but there's no real story there, so there's no real need to play it. Walmart is selling the Xbox mini fridge for 45% off for Cyber Monday, which is probably still pretty dumb to buy the mini fridge. They also have several other things on sale. I'm not sure I'd agree with all the things listed here as being good deals, though. A 12-player co-op Starship Troopers game has been announced, which 12-player co-op, why 12-player? Why not 24 at that point? Why not 100 players? Like, honestly, most games struggle to even have 4 players stick to a team and play all the way through a round. So why go so big to 12? I would also argue that the general conceit of Starship Troopers being a parody of military and is also that the main characters and heroes of the story always went rogue and were not following any kind of tight military structure in which every formations were being made and groups of people were working together. So from that concept and that idea, why have 12-player co-op? Why not have it be 1 to 4 players against massive amounts of bugs? And inherently, I still think there's probably a mistake around the idea of more than 4 players, because there's really only 4 sides you could get around any enemy, regardless of size. It's like somebody's going to be kind of north, somebody's going to be kind of south, somebody's going to be kind of east, and somebody's going to be kind of west. Yeah. Otherwise, is a Starship Troopers game that interesting? Honestly, it's probably just a better version of the idea of a Earth Defense Force type game, fighting bugs. Visually, it's got to look better than an Earth Defense Force game. But the giant bug shooting gimmick is what it's going to probably live and die on. And the 12-player co-op, I wouldn't be surprised if that gets cut down to other modes, requiring severely fewer players very quickly. Moving on, the Xbox Series X was one of Black Friday's top products, it's been claimed. A new report suggests the console was a hot item. I think it was, and that's in part probably why it wasn't really discounted anywhere. I saw, like, not severely discounted. Yeah, here they say the Xbox Series X wasn't particularly heavily discounted during Black Friday in the UK. The best deal appeared to be $20 off. Very but yeah, the problem here, I think, with the Series X and the Series S is there's two separate issues that aren't being addressed with the Series S. Most people don't mind that it's less RAM and less processing power, or if it even has less processing power. But people do mind getting the Series S and not having the ability to load a disc into the game. So, ironically, the best thing to do if you are cheap is to buy an Xbox Series 1, Xbox One X, or an Xbox One used. And I didn't see any of these actually discounted because they're so old. But you'd kind of have to buy one of those very cheaply used, so you can have the disc drive, and then you'd have to have your Xbox account at that point to plug in a disc to get it associated with your Xbox account. And then I'm assuming at that point, if you had an Xbox One, and I'm also assuming this wouldn't work with an Xbox 360, you could then download that game via the same account to an Xbox Series S. But maybe not. Maybe the forward compatibility there just would not work for most games or any games. Like, if you can plug the 360 game into an Xbox 360 and then have forward compatibility to an Xbox Series S and just skip over the Xbox One generation, which people mostly have forgotten about at this point, that would be even better. And ideally, the situation would be that you could just buy a disc drive for the Xbox Series S. And that could have been something fairly groundbreaking if that was released by Microsoft. Yeah, some kind of USB hard drive that you could buy with your Series S to play all your old games, sell it for quite an overpriced amount. A Blu-ray hard drive that potentially doesn't play Blu-rays without an extra fee, so they don't have to play the Blu-ray DVD video fees and licenses. That could probably get you could probably get that in bulk from Microsoft for like $10. So you sell it for $50-$60, or the difference between a Series X and a Series S, or slightly less, and that leaves an upgrade path for people. Yeah, and that would have been something that they could probably have gotten a lot of those too. Or you know what, they could have just announced a mail-in your disc program, and maybe this already exists and I've just forgotten about it, but that wouldn't be the craziest of thoughts either. Bring your discs in to cooperating storefronts, or mail it to Microsoft directly, and we'll add it to your account, and then we'll resell the discs or hand the disc back to you. Or turn in your discs and you can get a digital version of the game. Let's see. Moving on. I need to really hurry here. I did drink a 5-hour energy drink. I'm trying to stay up and not fall asleep in the middle of the day, but I still feel like at best I'm gonna conk out at around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Strong Cyberpunk sales drive record Q3 financial results for CD Projekt Red. The game had a resurgence following a major update and the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. People have stopped singing the praises of Cyberpunk 2077 too. I would imagine for that point, though, being a Netflix series you could easily binge, everybody who is interested in it has binged it and moved on. Whereas usually when I hear people tend to stop to play games, I don't get the feeling that they've actually played all of the games and they've moved on because of that. They've just lost interest after the first week and stopped playing. I still don't really think Cyberpunk 2077 is quite good enough of a game, and I still didn't really like the anime as much as people were hyping it up. Yeah, still feel like you'd have a much better experience watching Ghost in the Shell or some of the standalone complex TV series of Ghost in the Shell, or some of the other anime series that just had a little bit more to say and weren't just 100% dumb action, or sex and violence is very much on the menu with Cyberpunk 2077 or Cyberpunk Edge Runners. And in our last Video Games Chronicles article for today says Microsoft is, quote, likely to offer concessions soon, end quote, to help EU approval for the Activision deal, including a 10-year licensing deal to Sony for Call of Duty on PlayStation. This is according to a Reuters source. Yeah, maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I mean, really, this is just speculation. Speculation in which they're saying likely, which is to basically saying nothing. I imagine Microsoft is being very cautious about making any concessions with one country, because then every other country is going to want even more concessions, and they don't want the deal to not be worth it. Although certainly if Microsoft had to basically do nothing to Activision Blizzard for 20 years, 30 years, they still probably would be willing to do that. And I can't help but think that a lot of these concessions can be mostly empty promises in which they don't actually follow up on any of it at all, and then they pay a small fine. Because, let's face it, corporations are totally allowed to get away with doing stuff like that all the time. Verizon and AT&T promising fiber optics internet to a lot of places and then just never delivering on it after extremely long amounts of time. Let's see. Probably should stop playing and just focus on the news. And yeah, if I stopped playing, I don't think I'd get back to playing anymore today, as far as Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, twice now I've said I need to play more of this off screen, and then I've just not really played any more of it off screen. Like, my interest in playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is definitely waning some bit. Let's go ahead and destroy this card, I guess, since we don't have any other choice. Set that down, and can't do anything more. Alright, now we're going through the Komatsu articles. Genshin Impact version 3.3 update launches December 7th. Marvel's Midnight Suns has a combat overview trailer, which I actually do want to watch this because for all the advertisement of Marvel Midnight Suns, I still don't really know how this game is actually supposed to play. They say it's from the makers of XCOM and XCOM 2, which definitely would lean me towards the idea of it being an XCOM game. Although noticeably it seems like there's a gear card system to it. While that looks really fancy, I'm not sure if these aren't just attack animations. Yeah. This is straight up an XCOM positional placement game with card abilities as far as your actions. Boy, have they advertised this game quite a bit without really getting to the heart of the matter as far as what the actual game is. And this is a Marvel card game in the midst of Marvel Snap already being recently released. So it is this weird secondary Marvel card game. I think I saw something saying that DC games going in the future are going to be connected to the DC Cinematic Universe, which inherently still requires the DC Cinematic Universe to be a thing, but it is at least potentially getting everybody on the same page. I think Marvel games arguably should be in the same idea, but I bet Disney, well, who knows, with Bob Iger being back in charge. Well, I think Disney may still heavily want to lean towards Marvel games being their own spin-off things. Inherently, DC games make a lot more sense being in their own separate universes because a lot of the DC comic books are in their own separate 52 different variations of the universes, where the Marvel universe is fairly consistently all in the same universe, and there aren't any spin-off parallel dimensions, or not as many at least, spin-off parallel dimension books happening in the Marvel comic books. Although the way things are done in the comic book form really has very little connection to the way things are done in the cinematic and video game forms. Nier Automata version 1.1a TV anime promotion file 006 Lily trailer is available if you want to check that out. I also turned off smooth scrolling in Windows, and maybe that'll help me a little bit too. We already talked about Omega 6, the video game, and kind of looked at the screenshots, or the one screenshot here. Onion Games has a new sandbox RPG due out in 2023. I wonder if Onion Games is in any way connected to the Onion website. Probably not. Although there honestly probably should be an Onion video game, but it probably should be like a party game of some sort where you try to make Onion headlines, where this is like fake ridiculous headlines and concepts. The You Don't Know Jack people probably would do very well to work with the Onion if they were going to make a game like that. Either that, or you have the Onion break into video games by making ridiculous, over-the-top, postal-like games where it's just total ridiculousness, and that'd be kind of hard to do. A smartphone game called Brown Dust 2 has a characters pack trailer, which I don't know if I've heard anything about Brown Dust 2. This is quite the pose here, with a sharp V cleavage in a cat suit in a leather. Is that leather or plastic? What's the rubber? Latex. That's the word I'm thinking of. Yeah, quite the pose here, being shown off. But I think this is probably also fairly deceptive as far as what the actual game is. This is probably much closer to what the actual game is, and that one character in that one pose may only be in that pose, and it may not be anywhere as interesting to look at as it may seem. They have this week's Gamatsu has this week's Japanese game releases, so several games coming out for Switch and PS4 and PS5. The thing I've kind of come to realize is when we see something that is already available worldwide coming out, that tends to give an indication if there's more interest in that specific platform. So this Dakar Desert Rally coming up for the PS4 and PS5 might be an indication, or Mario and Rabbids coming out for the Switch might be an indication of Mario and Rabbids becoming more popular in Japan. Whereas launching worldwide stuff kind of doesn't mean anything, and if it doesn't say anything, it kind of doesn't mean anything. So we saw like one catch-up game basically for PS4 and PS5 and one catch-up game for Switch, which in a lot of ways I guess just means you're not you're not really learning anything from it. And otherwise this is just hype around some bigger names. The fact that this is rated 0C and this is rated 0Z is somewhat concerning, because I think 0C is kind of the equivalent of rated G or PG maybe. Like, I think it goes A, B, C, C, and skips over like D through Y as far as how it's rated. But yeah, Samurai Maiden, despite the lesbian companion overtones to it, doesn't seem like it's much of a game. And if anything, this is the ratings here highlight how horror and gore get much higher ratings than just anime girls holding hands and kissing. Let's see. I don't know why I'm summoning so many characters. But I'll take that. Put that there. P-scale that one. Gotta figure a better way to do this. Because over and over again I'm trying to win. I think I did play a couple of ranked games offline, and that was a disaster that just lowered me in the ranks, so I don't think I'm going to have time to make it to Platinum at this point. Moving on, Gmode Archives Plus, Megami Tyson Gaiden, Shinyaku Last Bible 1, 2, and 3 is coming to PC. These are Shin Megami Tensei spin-off games that were cell phone games for, I guess, Gmode cell phones is what they were. It's currently already available for the Switch in Japan. So, more and more, that's yet another example of old games coming to the PC in Japan. Well, Japanese games coming to PC. Let's see, the game 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim shipments and digital sales have topped 800,000, which it's been a long time since anybody has talked about 13 Sentinels, but it did seem to be fairly well received. A VTuber visual novel called Welcome Kokuri-san has been announced for the PS4, Switch, PC, iOS, and Android. I don't know this VTuber. And generally I kind of feel like VTubers have lost a lot of their appeal if they ever actually had it in the first place. This has got to be my last game. I pushed this as far as I can push it, and I am just not winning here. click this, and then try and destroy that, I guess. Let's see, a squad-based co-op first-person shooter, Starship Troopers Extermination announced for PC. And maybe we've got some more screenshots here we can look at. I think that's pretty much all we've got. Almost certainly this could have just been your average first-person shooter that at the last second got the license to the name Starship Troopers. You really wouldn't have to change too much if you already had bugs as the enemies. Yeah, it's just in there. And that teaser trailer is not really showing a lot. The Settlers' New Allies launches February 17th, 2023 for PC and later for everything else except for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. That's a weird selection actually of things. Coming out for PC and then PS4 only and Xbox One only and Switch. This may be one of the last games that actually come out for Xbox One, and then Amazon Luna, which I definitely don't feel like Amazon's Luna streaming service has succeeded anywhere. And immediately here, when we start looking at games that came out over the weekend, we have a game called Summer Crush, which is 3D natural CGI characters in completely naked situations. There seems to be a fairly large variety here of girls, and oddly one of those hairless Sphinx looking cats is also in the last screenshot. Quite a variety of girls and at least one guy, which noticeably that is something that is lacking in a lot of these 3D CGI visual novel games, is that you often don't see enough characters to have potentially different romantic interests and branching paths that you would see in a more traditional like dating sim type game. Yeah, it looks like there's at least 8 different girls in the game. It's selling for $10.79. It's English and Russian. Now I do exclude Russian only games on the list of new games that I look at. So taking that in mind, I will say it does kind of feel like we're not running into a lot of English and Russian games outside of adult content games. So it kind of feels like there might have been a shift in focus in that direction, or I don't know how else you would even really describe it. So I've had this win a duel daily quest for such a long time now. Like I need to duel in a solo mode 3 times. And I kind of need to do that off screen. Like if I was to even engage with this and duel in a solo mode, it would have to be to come through something like this and pick this and then just see if my Zodiac Tri-Brigade works. Here we have a game on Steam called Way of the Vulcan, which doesn't look quite enough like an actual game versus just some asset flip screenshots. We have a game called Robot X. My hand is getting tired here. Let me readjust. I don't think my controller is moving slower. I think I'm moving slower. But generally, I think I feel the difference there when my hand is getting tired, because that's fairly obvious that I'm just not moving as fast. Unless it really is some weirdness where the acceleration is shifting on me, and I don't think that's the case at all. Let's go ahead and go with this one. Then go with this one. Then let's see if we can eliminate this card for safety. Then go with this one. See, at that point, if I toss this, I can then re-summon it back. Which doesn't feel like it would actually do anything, but it opens up the door to the 2 summon. Trick here is to then direct attack and then go this way. Special summon this. Good Zeus. Should probably put that character in the defensive position. I was gonna do that though. Right, yeah, so Robot X doesn't look like anything. Boat Train. I wouldn't be 100% surprised if that very first game we saw was the last of the adult games coming out on Friday, considering this was November 25th on the release date, and these are supposed to be in chronological order. Although honestly they should be kind of in reverse chronological order, and yet they don't seem like they actually are. But that may be a quirk of how new tabs are opened in Firefox. Ooh, could I play a game with this terrible animation style? I don't think so. It just doesn't feel like the right thing. Right. Now at this point, I'm just going to activate this. That's going to destroy everything on the field. And let's hit this. What is even this card? Zodiac Ramrod? Why is that in the deck? And win. Nope, don't quite win yet. That being said, there might be a way to win. I don't think so, not on this turn. Would be very close, certainly to winning. I guess the comment question of the day would be to ask people to comment if the subscribe animation did come up, let's say every 30 minutes or so. Would that be too much? 30 minutes sounds like a reasonable amount of time to wait. I don't think 30 minutes would be too much, but anything earlier than that starts to get a little annoying. Inherently though, looking at the way YouTube says your average watch time and duration is, people are at best watching me for on average 3 or 4 minutes, so if they're not seeing the subscribe in the first 5 seconds, they're not going to see it anywhere else anyways. So for some reason I wanted to edit out the subscribe animation in the future. Having it only in the first 5 seconds is somewhat easy to edit out, but then the audio would still be a nightmare situation. Alright, so that's one fight done. But yeah, really the only thing stopping me from getting these fights done earlier is just the fact that I was waiting till the end of the month to do these solo fights. Let's see, we have another November 25th game here called Hentai Nurses. It's 2D, colorful anime, basically art styles of big butt, big chested anime girls, anime women. It's selling for 59 cents and claims to support every language with full audio, which I assume means there's no voice acting in it. It is a slide puzzle, specifically a collection of anime nurses or anime girls in nurse outfits. Let's see. Guess you play this, and then I guess you do this. If I could just program a macro to do this same move over and over again, it would be so nice. But unfortunately, no such luck. Go ahead and set that with some trickery. Let's see. Looks like we've got a Chinese game here called the Qin Empire, which supports Japanese only. Yeah. We may not even run into a single game here that's worth putting on the fall list, let alone on making YouTube short around it. This game Repossession doesn't have enough going for it as far as the screenshots. Let's go with this. And go ahead and target this to destroy this. And we'll see if that activates and actually works. Okay, battle, direct attack, summon Zeus. End the turn. Let's see, this game Volleyball Court. I don't think that quite works. Either RE encryption Looks like garbage. Clown of Duty. Doesn't look interesting enough. Is this an adult game? Nope. It's just kind of blurry. Something called Blind. Some kind of visual novel that says it supports English, Chinese, and Japanese. Well, for a game labeled Blind, at least they are showing you some images, but the images don't look particularly that good. Let's see. Let's go ahead and activate our Zeus character. Clear the field. Next we have a November 26th game called Sex Adventures Cuckold Gym, which is 3D CGI characters in natural color palettes, just normal looking, non-anime. I still am having to describe it as normal looking, non-anime. Seems like there's one girl and two guys, one guy being obviously the cuckold, so he's just sitting there watching as she's performing actions on the guy. Although most of these screenshots really show her working out in the gym more than anything else. But there is some definitely nudity porn screenshots in this. See, I don't know if the cuckold fetish is popular enough to justify making a video game if you really were going to make a 3D video game around it. Definitely when you're trying to sell it for $2.99. This one says it only supports English as its language. It's very possible that these games sell a lot better than one would think. But it is also very believable that these games are not selling at all, and this is just some kind of weird money laundering scheme. Alright. Gonna go ahead and summon this. Activate this ability. Toss exactly 4 of these guys. Summon this. Activate this ability. Go ahead and banish the unknown quantity. Go ahead and place this. And we'll leave everything else alone and see if that just wins for us. What can we do? Now I guess what you do there is you toss this into the graveyard, activate that, and you toss that into the graveyard. You add that back to your hand. Then you end the turn. Kind of doomed here. So he's got to drop on me. So I need to come back and try this one again. And I'll just do that off screen. Very likely succeed there. I need to do one more solo mode. And I won a duel, but apparently that doesn't include solo mode. Because I know I won that duel. So, yeah, 1 day to win a duel, 1 day to inflict a ton of damage on your opponent, which I'm not succeeding at that. As far as logins, we've missed quite a lot of days. Probably a lot of duel lives too. And we have 6 hours left on this exhibitionist. Didn't realize that's how little time I had left. Man, I am really just screwed here, am I? After all. Yeah, we have a couple more days in which we could play ranked, but 6 hours left to play this. So if I got one victory, one lucky victory, I could get this loop of destruction, but forget about getting this 100 or these 200 or this 100 or this 300 amount of gems. Noticeably I don't need gems, but it's always nice to have more. I have enough here where the thought potentially still comes down to maybe purchasing more of these, because I don't have a ton of cards from this pack, and if I had more time I would just purchase 10, 20, maybe even 30 packs of Battle Trajectory, and then I would have enough to spend for any secret packs that happens, and if there's any new structured packs or anything else that comes out anytime soon, I definitely could still afford all of that. Let's see what a 10 pack gets us here. Still getting a lot of cards, but my interest in these cards is at an all-time low and only likely to go lower. But I'm doing the work, certainly, by opening these packs and getting these cards. Every new card opens up a new realm of possibility as far as building meta decks that actually might be able to win, if I would spend the effort to figure out what meta decks right now would actually win. If anything, I'm probably just sitting out for this expansion, and next time they add more cards and change the meta in any significant way, that would probably be the point to try and build a new deck that might win. That doesn't look like anything. You know, I could probably do YouTube shorts and even possibly posts for student projects that show up on Steam. That wouldn't be the craziest of thoughts. I guess the question is it worth it to do a YouTube post? This probably is stolen art assets if I was to guess, but I can't say for certain. That one game, let me just check. Do we still have that one game here? Let's just reload. Yeah, this game from September 16th that has stolen art from Destiny Child, it's still here, and like, it doesn't have any reviews really, and I doubt anybody's investigated it any further, even though I flagged it and such. So this mining factory feels very possibly similar to that, where the art is just stolen. Seems like that's something you can get away with Wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot you can actually get away with on Steam. A certain level, the ability to install EmuDeck and emulators on the Steam Deck has really highlighted the ability of Steam, or the interest of Steam just not being in line in protecting copyright at all. This game, The Last Love, looks like it's just a horror game, but the first screenshot seems to be somebody being dissected. Some kind of human organ things. Yeah, but overall, The Last Love has a little bit of polish to it. Noticeably, there are some games that I've tried to do YouTube shorts on, and like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, that actually require you to click and consent to age, and I don't have a way of setting the cookies or consenting to it in OBS. So oddly, Modern Warfare is not going to get a YouTube short, even though it definitely should get one because of that. I don't think there's a way to get around that, but maybe there is. I drastically updated the CSS override code. CSS is a custom style sheets in my OBS YouTube short programming to block a lot more things, because the Steam Game of the Year notifications and voting for that was something new that needed to be blocked, but just a lot of other stuff. This next game on Steam is called Lala Hentai, and it's a slide jigsaw puzzle game, flat 2D, colorful anime girls. It is selling for 99 cents. It says it supports 29 languages. So, yeah, my custom style sheet is basically blocking this line and everything below this line. This was new, that needed to be blocked. This needed better code to block it. It's not as simple as just like one code. Each one of these little squares tends to have a different label to it, and you have to find each label and block it. But yeah, just trying to block everything. This here may still not be blocked. But yeah, what that effectively does at the lower resolution is just show what I wanted to show, which is the screenshots in the video, the description, the thumbnail, and a slightly smaller version of the reviews that you get when the resolution of the window is smaller, and this tags and information there. I'm not sure if release date and developer and publisher are even shown when the window is at a smaller resolution, so it's very limited. But then it also has a unique situation where this is right above this, so I have to tell this to actually move down to the bottom so that this can be in the middle, because I want it to be thumbnail at top, video screenshots in the middle where your eyes would naturally land, and then text description at bottom, and then just blank blue background below it, so if there's more text it will just naturally flow, and if there was just like a ton of text it would get cut off at the bottom. And it is way more difficult than it sounds to program that, to tell the web page to basically rearrange itself drastically and block 90% of what it's showing, what it wants to show. But it's doable. I wonder what would happen, though. Probably nothing, because it's based on the classes. The custom style sheets have labels called classes, and if you were trying to change something that didn't use CSS or HTML5 and we're just using like HTML version 1 or 2, you probably couldn't make much of a change there. Yeah, I'll give this a short. I don't know if it really needs to be on the follow list. Tennis Club story. Maybe allowing 2 of the same games from the same developer. Then we have a horror visual novel that doesn't seem like it supports English. It's Korean only. See, we're now at November 28th, which is today, as far as the new games. And so odds are fairly low that we won't see any more adult games. This one suffers too heavily from dark screenshot syndrome to make it to the follow list. Suppose the fact that I can figure out how to program these custom style sheets of a web page really does highlight that I was taught at least a decent foundation when I paid very little attention to my HTML webmastering class that I took in high school, because it certainly wasn't the type of programming or the level of programming I was interested in, although I have done several projects that were at some level going to involve HTML and JavaScript, so it's not like you could ever really get away from that. I definitely feel like it also probably stretches the programmer's brain somewhat in a good way to not have them focus exclusively on programming something like C++, C#, or Java in the old days. Don't learn Java these days. By having a completely different type of language and having to jump mentally between one type of language and the other and potentially solve the exact same challenges in different languages, that lets you learn the foundation of how to think like a programmer more than just how to know how to memorize and regurgitate code. I think this is probably too much of an asset flip horror game, so I'm going to say no to it. Although maybe I'm being a little too picky. I definitely don't think I'm going to highlight Bitcoin games. If I put this on a YouTube short, it's going to come out months after Christmas. But you know what? I'll put this on the follow list and then skip it as far as a YouTube short. Here we've got another visual novel. Yeah, I still don't think there's enough here. Maybe I'm just being more picky as far as visual novels in general. See, we only have like 3 more games to even look at. So, if my chair wasn't so uncomfortable at the moment, I would potentially consider going back to playing some more games. But, yeah. Also, despite drinking a 5-hour energy drink, I'm not sure I'm actually going to get 5 hours of alertness and awakeness. And we're already at the GameDeveloper.com articles. The fact that very few games have come out and that there's very few articles really just highlights how over the weekends, not that much happens, and over the weekend of Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday, definitely not that much is happening. So, Game Developer has this old article, I think we've already covered, that Microsoft says Call of Duty isn't that important actually. Pentiment game director pledges to update the credits to include localization staff. The studio didn't credit localization staff at the launch, but the game developer Josh Sawyer said that's because its partners didn't provide a list of specific translator names, which inherently I guess that probably means they didn't ask. But I also wouldn't be surprised if third-party localization companies have a kind of rigid internal policy to not provide translators' names, because it helps the third-party localization company keep its employees down. This is probably the beginning of several stories that we'll hear occasionally around this, where localization staff will come out directly and cause controversy if they're not credited, or anybody who works on the game in general will come out and cause controversy if they're not credited. And in the video game industry, since there's really no unions, being credited doesn't mean anything, so it's just so much safer to make sure you credit everybody. Now, inherently, they may be looking forward to a potential future where unionization potentially does happen in the video game industry, and people who are credited for old games maybe try to claw back and get some kind of residual for games they worked on in the past. But I imagine that would be a non-starter to negotiate, and it probably wouldn't lead to too much. And it definitely is not the right thing to do to not credit people. People should always get credit. That's something you kind of learn in kindergarten, is don't take credit for things you didn't do, and do give acclaim and applause and credit to people who do good things. And it's ridiculous that companies don't know these basic kindergarten ideals. Let's see. Space Ape Games will shut down Boom Beach Frontlines in January. This is not a mobile game that I've never heard of, but it might be a point on a line that leads towards a pattern as far as a lot of mobile games. Giving up the ghost, not making quite enough money, or not being good enough to continue supporting. And here's that article I mentioned a long time ago. James Gunn, who I believe is now in charge of DC, has confirmed that future DC games will be connected to the films and TV. Adding games into WB's rejuvenated DC universe means the company's game division will continue to operate. I guess Warner Brothers does own DC, doesn't it? So we may be starting to see the final dust-ups and shaking out of Warner Brothers as it's being acquired, and we may now see them on a path towards doing something solid. Whether that solid thing is going to be good or bad, we'll still have to wait and see. Let's see. Here we have a flight simulator game which runs in VR mode. I doubt I would buy any flight simulator other than Microsoft Flight Simulator at this point, so I'm going to remove that from the follow list. We're doing the follow list cleanup now. Airson Zach is not relevant enough, so we'll remove that from the follow list, which is a shame, because it looks like some of that may have been fun, but probably not enough. Aerial Knights Never Yield. Is this a multiplayer game? It says it's a single player game. Survive a futuristic tutorial in a 3D runner that tells the story of Wall-E. Well, Guess this is positive, so we'll put that on the wish list. Then Aeon Must Die. I remember this game, but it seems like it's mixed, so definitely nobody's enthusiastic about it now, so that can leave the fall list. There is a potential future. It's not a likely future. This game needs more time, but there is a potential future where I am playing games much closer towards their initial release. This isn't a VR game, and right now it's discounted for 60 cents. A arcade first-person shooting platform at 60 cents is probably worth it. At full price, probably not. But yeah, if I've just played all the old games, Adventure Time is mostly positive. I could start to play games before they really have reviews and just run that risk. This looks too much like a Game Boy game. What would have made me potentially put this on the fall list is that at least it looks like a widescreen Game Boy game, whereas so many Game Boy games are just square resolutions for no reason. But obviously it's not very relevant with only 14 reviews. It would be very wasteful, certainly, to start playing significant numbers of games as they're brand new before there's even any reviews around them. And that still belies the reality that I just don't have the energy and time to play as many new games as might come out in a week. And I have to pick and choose just for time management reasons, let alone budget reasons. Let's see, we've got a casual adventure dating game that also says it's a shooter. Yeah, it's kind of a cell phone game with an anime girl. It's that pin game. Interesting. So I could play the pin game with Adorable Witch 2, which means I should probably see if Adorable Witch 1 is available. Let's check out Lovely Games. Looks like most of these are adult games. Like simplistic mobile games with adult content being a selling point. It's not the worst idea, certainly, to merge clickbait mobile games. Adorable Witch 1 looks exactly like Adorable Witch 2, however. It's pretty much totally loved, though, with a free adult patch, so it can be sold outside of the adult section. So you put that on the wish list, you play it without the adult patch, and you go, hey, if you're willing to spend $1.49 to play what you could probably play for free on mobile with a lot more time and a lot more ads, and have the adult content, that works for a certain audience, certainly. Let's see, and then the last fall list cleanup game we have today is this game, which is not relevant. So that leaves the fall list. Alright, and that only ends us at like 2:30, which that's fine, really. So let me just quickly reload my Twitter feed and see if there's anything new to say. I will say Twitter does seem to be getting a little bit more spam in my mentions, but that seems to be the only major thing that has changed as far as my experience on Twitter so far. I imagine things will eventually change, but I'm still seeing posts, and I've yet to recognize any major missing posts. Like, everybody's kind of in this holding position where they'd like to leave Twitter, but they don't have an idea where to go. One of the people on Twitter who was posting a lot of their art on DeviantArt has moved over to Pixiv, but Pixiv also has its own censorship controversy going on, where DeviantArt had its "we're going to use your art for our AI art generation sampling" controversy going on. So I don't know if moving from DeviantArt to Pixiv makes a lot of sense, and I don't know if there's really any other competitor to DeviantArt and Pixiv. Although arguably the censorship problem with Pixiv is really just the credit card companies in America refusing to do business with any website that potentially has any lolly art on it. Lolly art on it. I say lowly, but I mean lolly. There is a Video Games Chronicles article here that says CD Projekt Red is planning to do more transmedia projects after the success of Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which it would be insane for them not to do more of that. Red Dead Redemption 2 reached an all-time higher player count on PC. Yep. Over the Thanksgiving weekend, you'd think player counts might be fairly high, but that maybe isn't really the case, because the way things work really is that you would, during Thanksgiving, probably play less video games. There's a GameDeveloper.com article here explaining. It says Maxis executive producer Philip Ring explains why EA is expanding out to Europe to find developers to work on The Sims. Which, yeah, I doubt Maxis has enough talent to make a Sims 5 by itself. Bandai Namco has trademarked Fires of Rubicon in Europe, and Capcom has trademarked Capcom Box in Japan. Which, that's two different companies' trademarks in the same screenshot, which could only lead to confusion. There's still a lot of sources that I have yet to find a replacement for. Like, my personal Facebook has recommended me following some artists, and I just don't know if I could really live with seeing artists in my Facebook feed. Because when I go to Facebook, I really am looking for just friends and family posts. Whereas when I go to Twitter, I'm looking for the exact opposite of that. And there really should be one service that allows you to click on one tab and see friends and family, and a different tab and see businesses and artists that you follow. And yet there's just not a service like that, which is ridiculous. Probably is some way to do it, but I don't know Hell, you probably make Facebook lists. Would probably be the smartest move to make that happen. Alright, well, it doesn't look like there's any other new news happening on Twitter. And we started at a fairly reasonable time, so I doubt anything more is going to happen this evening. So that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos because that helps me with YouTube. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. The Steam sale is going on right now, so now is the perfect time for somebody to gift me. Unless, of course, you're watching this in rerun, then it's Steam sale's probably not going right now. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.